What's up, good people? Welcome to the inaugural episode of Knowledge and Resistance, where we share knowledge to encourage resistance. Today, we are going to discuss police. With everything that's been going on with, George Floyd here in Minneapolis, and Breonna Taylor and Rayshard Brooks. And honestly, let's be real. Everything that has been going on between police and black people since the police were first invented. It's important that we start to take a critical look at what the police do in society, how they serve society, the role that they play in society, and whether or not they're a benefit at all in society. There's been a lot of talk about, defunding police and abolishing police, and this talk seems to be causing some panic among certain people. There's a lot of people that are for it, which is good. It's really good to see that, because there was a time when, we couldn't imagine a world without police. But there's also people that are really skeptical and kind of scared that the police are actually going to be abolished. This panic response, it's one that it's conditioned. We are conditioned as a society to believe that we need police, to believe that the police are the good guys, to believe that without police, society would descend into all-out violence and chaos without them to maintain some semblance of order. If we take a look at what society's state is right now, I think we can all agree that that's kind of what's happening anyways. Right? I mean, and honestly, the ones causing the most violence are the police. And the reason for this is because the law allows for them to have a monopoly on violence. So why? Why are police so violent? Why are they causing so much pain? Why are they causing so much chaos and tumult in our communities, in our societies? These are the people that are supposed to be serving and protecting us, right? Well, I mean, that's what we're told. But that's not what they do. First, we need to understand that we were never told who they serve and protect. We all just assumed that it was us. But they never said that we're here to serve and protect you. They just said, we're here to serve and protect. It's not us. That's not what they do. And there's proof of that. We need to understand that there is no such thing as a good cop. But we need to understand why there's no such thing as a good cop. Now, before you go getting all offended, thinking that I'm, casting aspersions or that it's a personal indictment against your uncle or your dad or your brother or whoever, just take a look at why there's no such thing as a good cop and understand the difference. We need to understand the difference. The way that society is arranged. Society is arranged in a way that causes us to conflate occupation with character. We are worked so hard as a society, and we are so ingrained into this fallacious idea that hard work equals success, that we've started to take on, well, I shouldn't say started, we've, for a long time, have kind of started to take on our occupation as part of our identity. And this is something that is, I mean, it happens, throughout the world. A lot of people start to take on their occupation as part of who they are. And it's not out of the ordinary to offer that up as, information when getting to know somebody, or to ask them, what do you do for a living, when trying to get to know them, as though it's part of their identity. Now, it should be said that your occupation, it can offer insight into parts of your identity, into parts of who you are. But the occupation itself, that's not who you are. That's not part of you. A lot of people will become nurses because they're caring and empathetic. They like to care for people. But you can be caring and empathetic as a bus driver just as well as you can being a nurse. You can be just as scientific and analytical being a doctor as you can being a janitor. So your occupation can offer insight into parts of who you are, but it is itself not, it's not elemental to your identity. So when we say there's no such thing as a good cop, what we mean is just because there's no such thing as a good cop, it doesn't mean that there aren't good people who then become cops. If you see somebody in a badge doing a good thing, we do need to understand that this is them being a good person, not being a good cop. But you don't need a badge to be a good person. You do, however, need a badge to enforce this unequal power distribution that we have going on in society right now. I think if we take a look at the history of police, it can offer some insight into just exactly what could happen. And it could offer maybe some insight into how police got to be where they are and why they're causing so much chaos and violence in society today, in American society today. So the history of police is that they come from slave patrols. The men that would ride around the plantations, carrying shotguns, wearing badges that said slave patrol, and chasing down runaway slaves are the descendants of the police who patrol our neighborhoods today. I think we can all agree that if the root is bad, the tree is bad. If the tree is bad, the fruit is bad. The police, in its modern form, didn't take shape until 1832. 1832 is when the first police precinct or whatever in America was formed. Does that suggest that before 1832, society was just all violence and chaos? That it was just complete, all-out riots, that everybody was running around killing each other before 1832? I mean, if it were like that, we wouldn't be here today, right? So the idea that we need police to maintain order is false, because police haven't always been around. So what role do police play in society? What are they for? Well, in 2005, the Supreme Court handed down a ruling saying that the police are not legally obligated to serve and protect. This ruling was a reaffirmation. It didn't change the way that police operate. All it did was reaffirm to the police, to society, to everybody, that what they were already doing, what they were already practicing, was what their job is. And that job is to enforce the law. They are not legally obligated to serve and protect. Their only job is to enforce the law. Now, this sounds noble, right? It sounds like a very valiant undertaking until we consider what the law is. Well, what is the law? Well, we're told that the law is what guarantees justice, right? It's what keeps order. It's what keeps peace. It's what maintains a civil society. Well, under what pretense does it do that? When we consider that slavery was the law, and then we consider that people who helped slaves hide were criminalized, when we consider that the Holocaust was the law, and that people who helped Jewish people hide were criminalized, when we consider that Jim Crow, segregation in the South, was the law, and people who stood up to this dual law system, this unfair, unequal dual law system, were criminalized, we see that the law, it's not a measure of justice. It doesn't guarantee justice. It's not for justice. The law is a measure of power. The law is enforced solely to protect the people with power from the people without power, as evidenced by legalized slavery, by legalized genocide, by legalized apartheid. That's what the law is for, is to maintain the current distribution of power. It's to maintain the status quo. It's to keep society where it's at. It's to prevent society from progressing. That is what the police do. The police's job is to prevent society from progressing. It's to prevent an equal distribution of power. In Nazi Germany, there was a guy by the name of Adolf Eichmann. And Adolf Eichmann's job, amongst other things, was to make sure that the trains to Auschwitz ran on time. This means that it was his job to ensure that tens of thousands of Jewish people were at a state-determined place, at a state-determined time, to meet an eventual state-determined death. In the 1970s, a psychologist by the name of Hannah Arendt, she did a case study on Adolf Eichmann, which she later wrote a book about, and she titled the book The Banality of Evil. And the reason that she titled this book The Banality of Evil is because what she found out about Adolf Eichmann was that by every other account, Adolf Eichmann was just a regular guy. He was married, he had kids, he owned a house, he helped his kids with homework, he mowed his lawn on Saturdays, he paid bills, and he had a job. It just so happened that his job was to enforce oppression. She actually found out that Adolf Eichmann didn't even really harbor any particular disdain for Jewish people. He was just doing his job. And that is where the banality of evil comes in. That when we are just doing our job, when we fail to think for ourselves, we become the instruments of evil. That means that every single cop in America needs to understand that they are going to go down in the history books right next to every rank and file Nazi. Because becoming a cop is a choice. And when you choose to become a cop, you choose to become my enemy. You choose to become an enemy of the people. If you like what you heard, make sure you hit the subscribe button, like, comment, share, and then make sure that you tune in next week for more content. Thanks.